You are listening to a Nerd Room podcast production. We, the Nerd. Bunch of nerds.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Room. We talk all things Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and beyond. This is episode number 300. We're in anticipation of the release of Spider-Man No Way Home. We'll be looking at the history of good old Webhead himself with a Spider-Man retrospective. Now, for this 300th episode, I am one of your hosts, Tim.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Carlos.
300, guys. We started this podcast in December of 2015. Our first episodes, 4 of them, hitting Apple on January 15th, 2016. So just about 6 years of recording this very podcast. And we'd like to welcome everyone who's been here since episode 1, who is joining for the first time on episode 300. Welcome to the Nerd Room. Carlos, Troy, my dudes. How are you guys doing on episode 300 here?
Good, man. Happy to be here. Being the latecomer to the Nerd Room party.
Yeah, but you own all 300 episodes, though, brother, even though you've only been here for 150 of them.
Yeah, 150. We planted that seed in that weird screening of Justice League.
Yes.
Yeah, the Force brought us all together, all in the same theater to experience that.
It did. Troy, man, how you doing?
Man.
I think you've been here since episode 8, episode 4, maybe 6. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah, long time, man. No, feeling good, feeling great, and always appreciate being here, man. This is crazy, man. I can't believe this 300 episodes and just all the people you got to interact with, man.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys over on Twitterverse, the Twitterverse. It's so real, and I love all those guys and gals out there. So let's keep it going, let's keep rocking, and enjoy all of Nerdom, man. Love it.
Yeah. And I think off of that point there that you made, Troy, I think that's kind of the most important thing that I want to hit on for episode 300. We're not doing a big celebration. We're going to actually talk about a few little things before getting into our Spider-Man retrospective. But I think on behalf of myself, Carlos, Troy, Ian, Sanjay, everyone who's been part of the Nerd Room and creating and building this community, I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the connections on Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, wherever it is. The entire new nerd community that we've been able to build together through a collective passion for Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and beyond. Thank you guys for being there, coming back every single week. We have a riot doing this. We love podcasting and talking about this stuff every week, and it's awesome that we get to experience it and share it with you guys. So big thank you guys for making 300 episodes a lot of fun for us as well. Now, given that we're looking at episode 300, so that's 300 published episodes or numbered episodes. We've actually published 360 episodes when you include all the bonus shows that we've done, whether it's the MCU retrospective. Troy and I used to do a little Rebels after show, Star Wars Rebel Alert. I think it was season 3, maybe season 4 up until the end, where we kind of did an immediate record right after and dumped that onto. That was before we had 2 kids each. We've done some bonus episodes this year with the Calgary Ghostbusters, and we just recorded, Carlos and I, an awesome Jurassic World retrospective or discussion with Tom Jurassic and memes that we just dropped on the feed, so go 1 episode back. But 300 episodes, or 360 episodes, if you do a rough calculation, that's about 30,000 minutes of content. 500 hours and 20 days of consistent listening for the Nerd Room. So you could sit down today and you'll be past the end of December before you're done listening to all 360-ish episodes of the Nerd Room. That's crazy when you put that into perspective.
That's amazing, man. That's absolutely amazing.
This is our legacy, guys. This is our legacy. We're going to be leaving our children not only room full of collectibles that they may or may not want, we're also going to be leaving them with thousands upon thousands of hours of content here. So if you guys are new to the show, there you go. You got 500 hours worth of content to listen to. And as we've done this, as we've gone through all 300 episodes, we've covered a lot of things between those beginning few days right around The Force Awakens, all the way up to now what's going to be Spider-Man No Way Home, the third entry into that trilogy, which just kicked off in 2017. we've looked and watched and celebrated the rise of Star Wars in the Disney era. We've had a absolute parade of plastic that has pushed us well into our late 60s for retirement because of the effects on our individual wallets, bringing all those Hot Toys and Marvel Legends and Black Series. We've reviewed and discussed endless trailers, teasers, and rumors, and speculated, much to the pleasure of myself because I love a good speculation. We've got over 50 film reviews. We've seen the return of Spider-Man to the big screen in the MCU. We watched the end of the Infinity Saga, 10 years in the making. We actually got to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in this time span. DC fandom and the rising tides of the new DC film direction going into 2020. We've seen the death and the resurrection of the theatrical experience at the hands of an unprecedented global pandemic. We've seen the arrival of Disney Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, a new form of visual storytelling for all of our favorite franchises. We've seen a lot here, guys, over the last 6 years, and that is just a small window into the things that we've discussed since 2016, late 2015. But I want to know, what are some of the things that you've loved discussing on this podcast in here? I want to just do a little bit of a look back here for the listeners. And I want you guys out there that are listening too to think about this. In the last 6 years, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff in this nerd space. And I listed a few things there. But Troy, what's some of your favorite moments from nerddom over the last 6 years as we've recorded these 300 episodes?
I think one, which is just absolutely huge to me, even though it didn't turn out the greatest, but the beginning was amazing. And I got to go with The Force Awakens. The anticipation to The Force Awakens. Star Wars is back. It's under Disney. We got all these new creative ways that we can go. Returning characters coming back because we know that we're getting Luke. We know we're getting Han. We know we're getting Leia, Chewie, and the trailers and just discussing that. Obviously, we probably mention this at least 2 or 3 times a year. Tim and I's like notorious hunt for the Black Series is my first dive into the Black Series that day, and it was amazing, man. And I think that was just something really special because before Force Awakens, it probably would have been a Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace probably would have been like the biggest thing to really get crazy over. And when The Force Awakens came, I just felt like, literally, I felt like the Force has just awakened in everybody. And like the anticipation was so high from kids to grown-ass men to our age. Like everybody was just like, wow, like Star Wars is going down. And I think I remember too when we saw, like, what was it? Was it the first screening in Hollywood? Was it at the Chinese theater there they have, or the El Capitan? No, it's the Chinese. Yeah, and Hollywood was just lit. It was just nuts seeing that from, like, I think Entertainment Tonight was broadcasting, and I was like, oh my goodness, like what a time we live in. And for me, walking out of Force Awakens, I was blown away. I loved it. I fell in love with the character Rey and Finn out of that film. And my level of Star Wars was on an all-time high because I'm coming off of the Clone Wars movie, the animated movie, which actually wrecked Star Wars for me. And how weird has it's changed because I've fallen in love with Clone Wars, the actual series, and Ahsoka has now become like my number 2 favorite character in Star Wars, right? So basically, yeah, that moment in time and just us like talking about it, and poor Sanjay having to listen to us go on and on about Star Wars, but man, it was real. Like it was amazing because like action figure collecting and then talking about the movies and all the theory crafting and the costumes, and our kids were dressing up as Rey with the light. Like it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy times, and that Force Awakens will always have a special place in my heart for that, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's that Force Awakens and then the post TFA world that we lived in into Rogue One, really up to 2017 when we got The Last Jedi. That space in there, the collecting was wild. All the Force Friday events, the Elite Series, the 3 3/4 inch, the Black Series. There was so much going on and so much positivity in the community. This film that lit the world on fire. Now over $900 million at the domestic box office. And
Crazy.
It propelled Star Wars to a level that no one could have predicted. And we were right in the middle of it when it came to the speculation, the trailer watching, the theory crafting, it was so much fun. I remember that period so fondly on the podcast. It was basically like 2 solid years of, like you said, just talking through Sanjay and saying, hey, no, we're doing Star Wars this week. And then all the books. You remember us going through the books and the new comics dropping, and you and I thinking, this should be easy to keep up with the new canon stories. We could read a book every couple of months and we're golden. We'll do it all. And here I am, like 70 books behind now. And like hundreds of comic books. And so that was an absolutely wild time. And I agree with you, man. That's like one of my favorite points of nerddom in the last 6 years or so. We actually went back and did a TFA retrospective this time last year, 5 years out from its debut. So you can go back 52 or so episodes and check out that one if you want a little bit more TFA love. Now, Carlos, you came into the show in, what was it, late 2017, 2018?
18. Yeah.
18.
Aquaman.
Yeah,
I think was, or it would have been early 19, because Aquaman was Christmas of 2018, and that's when I like first met everybody, and for the first time, it live and in person, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
the big tester. We've talked about this before, about asking this guy to come with us, and everyone being like, "What is happening? This is strange." And then the next weekend, like I've said in the past, he's in my basement talking around this very table. But how about you, man? Going back even to that 15, 16 time, or even point forward from the podcast, what's been the thing or the moment that has really resonated with you over the last 3 or so years podcasting and doing this every single Tuesday from basically go?
Yeah, to be honest, I think my favorite was the whole Joker thing. Like that movie hit, and it was such an anomaly, and we didn't know what to make of it, and we went from everybody saying, why do we need a Joker movie, to this thing like cleaning up at the Venice Film Festival and Sundance, and us thinking like, holy cow, they have a bona fide movie on their hands. And then we all rolled to it for the first time, and nice new shiny theater that we got to see it in, and it just blew us all away. And then that was the first, I think that might have been our only remote record that we've done during my tenure. And you brought the big table and all the gear, and we did a record in the back cave the first time. And it wasn't Troy's first time here for sure, but I think it might have been Sanjay's and maybe yours, Tim. I don't know, but
I think I'd been through once before that on a solo mission, but I forgot that we did that.
And that was that was pretty cool. Like it was just a neat experience. Like my family got to meet you guys for the first time, where you went from just being my Twitter friends, quote unquote, to being bona fide. And I got to check out the place, and we had and we got a cool movie to review too. Like that I was just actually going back and forth about that very film this morning with Sunny a little bit, and it I forgot just how tremendous it was and how good a job they did with that movie. And it was just such an anomaly in this comic book movie space, and remains that way too. So I have very fond memories of that film, but also just everything that the podcast brought along with that, with us getting to see it together and then celebrating it at my house. And it was pretty cool.
That was awesome. Cool. It's one of my favorite reviews, actually. I've never revisited that movie. And the way that we all finished the review, we're like, oh, this is great. What did you think of the end? And all of us had a different idea of what it meant. I thought that spoke very loudly to the power of that movie and what it was able to deliver, because we all interpreted the ending completely differently. I thought it was really cool. We all sat together to watch the exact same movie, discussed it for like an hour and a half, and then all said, nope, this is how it ends. We're like, wait, what? That was a lot of fun. I'd be honestly, I'd be a little remiss if I did not say this, being the MCU dude, but like experiencing the Infinity War and Endgame, that whole end to the Infinity Saga as a group as well was really cool. Going to see it in the theater, that moment at the end of Infinity War, and then waiting a whole year. We did a year on this podcast, almost to the day, speculating as to what happens in Endgame, and it still blew our brains apart sitting in the theater for that first time. Like, two moments that always will stick out to me is the Red Skull appearance in Infinity War sitting beside Troy. And then the Avengers assemble, the Cap picking up Mjolnir. Of course, like everyone's heard this from me. Everyone is fairly or fairly very much agrees on the power of that part of the experience. But like we spent years, 2 years building into both of those films on the podcast through trailers and supplemental movies, some good, some not as good. That was a ton of fun building in all of that, because it was another thing. You were just immersed in this hype machine and this like cycle that Marvel had placed us in, that was just, we were chomping at the bit, whether it was the legends or the posters or every little piece of this, that, and the other thing. And to still, with all that, with hundreds of hours of discussion, still have the experience that we did, I thought that was really cool. One of my favorite times as well was the build up to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you guys? Anything else before we talk Spidey? I know you guys are antsy to talk Spidey here, but
speaking of Spidey, man, I gotta go easily with Tom Holland's debut, Civil War. Hey everyone, Captain America's shield in that trailer. I've never seen outside of a Toys R Us on my phone when the trailer dropped, and I'm like, oh my god, like he's here, like Spider-Man is here, because I wasn't actually I didn't know much about Tom Holland, but I remember I think it's either between him or Asa Butterfield, or I can't remember the kid's name, but it's between two of them, and that's actually more so for Butterfield, because I didn't think Tom Holland really could, like, he just didn't have the look at the time for me. And when I saw the trailer, obviously he wasn't present, but it's just like the suit, right? It was it's like the CG animated kind of look of Spider-Man, and I was like, whatever they've done, they nailed it. Like that right there is Peter Parker. Yeah, he's holding a Captain America shield, but like the wittiness and like the very like kind of New Yorker accent, but it's kind of like muffled, but it's not super present in your face. I was like, yeah, this is like a young Peter Parker Spider-Man. Like, we're in good hands, because that was the Russos too that was doing that film, and I was just like, wow, we're in for something great. Plus, you already knew that Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther was going to be in the film, and there's like the whole, I don't know if it's the email leaks or what, but remember at the time we knew there was a script with Black Panther and no Peter, and then there was a version with Peter and Black Panther, and forever, like more so than the X-Men, more so than Deadpool or the Fantastic Four, everybody always wanted to see Spider-Man in the MCU, because it's like Mickey out of like Disney, like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta have Spider-Man in the Marvel universe, and so him being there just felt right, and even to this day I still love the character being there, because for me that's just where he belongs. And what better way to see that than in the middle of Civil War, in between these different heroes. And unlike the comic book, he's a teenager. Like, he's not even like an adult. This is a teenager fighting between his idols. I just thought it was like a brilliant setup, and I thought the Russos handled it extremely well, both with Black Panther and Spider-Man. So that was a big moment for me, and it's something I've always wanted to see live action. So it's awesome.
Well, and that Ramita Senior / Ross Andrew look to his head doesn't hurt either.
With the eyes.
Yeah,
that's what sold me.
Yeah, that trailer moment, right, when his eyes go down, and like that scene that is like, it's audio from another part, right, and it's all like spliced together in a certain way. Yeah, that introduction was cool, because we're one bad Spider-Man movie, or one iffy Spider-Man movie away from that being Andrew Garfield potentially, right? Because remember, the whole Avengers Tower was supposed to be amazing, but like all the talks fell through, and then
and
2 years
in the MCU.
Yeah, exactly. And then 2 years later, boom, we're in reboot stage, which is crazy. Carlos, do you want to finish this off? Is there anything else you want to throw on the table here before we move off to Spidey?
Oh man, like, how can we not commemorate the podcast and the journey together without talking about DC fandom and the journey from the announcement through to the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League? Like,
bravo. Yeah.
That was just such a cool period of time, and like, just we had something that we didn't think was going to be happening, and like, I vividly remember to this day, like, I had this crappy office set up in my basement on a sofa table, sitting on a folding chair, the early days of work from home orders. And I had like the Man of Steel live stream going on another computer, and I had Sanjay just like lighting up my phone back and forth with the DMs, and just watching the range of emotions with him going from, oh, nothing's happening, I can't believe this was I burnt my whole morning doing this, and then that announcement hits at the end, and just Sonny going crazy, being like, what, did this actually happen, what's going on, and like basically asking me to verify that he hadn't fallen down and had a fever dream that this thing was actually happening, to us like discussing the announcement, and then fandom. Like that was just such a cool experience to watch that first fandom, see them kick it right through the uprights, but then like just the DMs back and forth, because it was like we were at a convention together, experiencing this all together, and like they're dropping the Gotham Knights stuff for the first time, and yeah, we got to experience the Batman trailer together. Like it was just so cool to go through that, and then to actually see the movie and for it to blow us all away from the most skeptical to the most enthusiastic about it. We all just embraced and loved that thing, and yeah, it gave us a solid couple months, a good year of content kind of thing, and yeah, that was just, it was an awesome little journey to take that thing from being something that existed just in the ether to being the greatest comic book movie ever put to screen.
Ooh, that's a bold statement there, but but I will say, I will echo those sentiments, because when you're talking skeptic, you're talking me. Like I was the biggest skeptic. I didn't think this thing existed.
Yeah, I was right next to you, man. I was right next to you.
And coming off B versus S, you go back to our 16, 17 episodes, I'm pretty hard on all of that. And for that movie to land in front of us, and I threw this on Twitter the other day, I put it up there as the best comic book movie of 2021. Yeah. Right? It's in both relative comparison to everything we've seen, but also in just general grading. So I went back and listened to every single grade I did, because I was curious, right? Because this movie's fallen on a lot of lists this year. And I said, where did I actually put this? Unbiased, just giving it in the moment that in a relative, and it's the A-. It's the highest rank I've gave a film this year. And to go from not believing that it exists to giving it the highest grade for me personally in the year, and hailing it as the best comic book film, like that's a pretty wild experience to go through.
Yeah.
And DC fandom, like you said, was like the catalyst to a lot of that. And yeah, it was, man, it's wild when you think about that. You go back to, or like we've been chronicling this Zack Snyder thing for almost the entirety of this podcast, the existence of it. That we were talking Batman versus Superman in that 16, our early days with that and Civil War, and then you get into Justice League and all the craziness around. Like it's been a part of the podcast as much as Star Wars has. Zack Snyder and that universe has been part of this podcast, an integral piece of it.
Yeah, man, you've been leading this podcast longer than they've had a head for their DC division in Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah, you've been in your position longer than anybody that worked for that company, type of thing. Yeah. So who knows?
Walter Hamada.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe Hamada's the real deal, but yeah, you outlasted all of them.
Yeah. Troy, I know you love Zack Snyder's Justice League, man.
I loved it, man. Because for me, Man of Steel I was a big sucker for. I absolutely love that. And then there's bits and pieces of BVS that I like. I've grown to appreciate it far more. But and with Justice League, Joss Whedon, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was actually bad. And I could tell at that point, though, Affleck was kind of checked out, which I was kind of bummed over, because I really do like him in the role of Batman. And then this new hope kind of came after the fandom reveal and whatnot. And I think we got a little bit of a tease with the Joker card, and just knowing that Affleck's back and he's reinvested and he's coming back in the Flash, and we got Henry Cavill in the black suit, and we got more scenes of the Flash, and everything was firing. And then when I saw this film, the 4-hour cut, I absolutely fell in love with it. I started reading up on all of Zack Snyder's other like stories that are meant to take place after in this universe. I'm still craving that now, and I absolutely love it. And I'm with you. For me right now, I haven't seen Spider-Man yet, but I guess when you guys listen to this episode, I will have seen it. But anyways, yeah, it's my favorite comic book movie of the year, hands down. It's my opinion. It's far better than Shang-Chi. It's better than Black Widow. The Suicide Squad was really good, and it was close, but it is better than the Suicide Squad. And I don't know what else I'm missing, but I feel like that film for me, that 4-hour cut, that last act, it's one of the best acts ever put to the live screen. It is absolutely fantastic. And that banter between the Joker and the Batman just hits me in all the right places. It's something I've always wanted to see. So I forever love that movie. So good. So good.
Oh man, you did forget Eternals on that list. So
and Venom 2.
Shoot,
Venom 2.
That wasn't even intentional. Honestly, honest mistake. Wow.
Well, why take up space in your brain, right? We're just
That's
like,
right, man.
yeah.
There it goes. So there it is, guys. A little look back on some of our favorite moments. If you ever want to go back and listen to some predictions that are mostly wrong and some skepticism in some wild ways, go back to 2016, 2017. I think I used the phrase a lot for DC films. It's a step in the right direction. So we've had a ton of fun, and we're going to push forward, guys. We're getting to the end of 2021 here. It feels like the last 2 years have aged me about 10 or 12 or so, but we're here. We've gotten to Spider-Man No Way Home. I still don't have tickets. I still don't know when I'm going to see it, because I looked today for an empty theater. One does not exist this weekend. So I'm going to have to put on some sort of hazmat suit and walk my way into a showing full of people, because everything from Thursday night through to Sunday at 10:45 at night has almost max capacity, at least at the landmark close to me. And so that goes to show how anticipated this film is. This film could be, Spider-Man No Way Home could be the first $100 million film opening weekend in the pandemic era, which is pretty crazy and very appropriate, because this character has been around forever. It's 1962, Amazing Fantasy number 15, Ditko, Stan Lee. They create this character. You know, the first teenager to be a superhero, right? They usually were sidekicks or whatever. And it provided an avenue in. We talk a lot about avenues in for younger people into comic books, into films, and they got to see themselves. And Peter Parker was one of those guys. And it introduces us also to this huge rogues gallery. Everyone from Harry Osborn, Flash Thompson, you got Gwen Stacy, you've got Mary Jane Watson. Then you go into his foes. You've got Doc Ock, you've got Goblin, Venom, Electro, Sandman, Vulture, Lizard, most of which we're going to see this weekend. But this character, I want to know, why does it resonate so much from 62 all the way through to now? This character is arguably the most popular superhero ever. From a merchandising perspective, he sells more than Batman, Superman, the Avengers, anyone. Spider-Man is a massive, massive commodity, but also a fixture in nerddom. Carlos, what is it about Spider-Man? What is it about this character that you have such a strong connection to?
Well, I think, like, for the audience, he's just immediately compelling. Like, just that visual with, like, the big white eyes and the red and blue suit, and those colors are just automatically interesting to children, and people gravitate towards it. But then also, he's an interesting and compelling character to adults and more mature readers as well. So there's just that visual aesthetic of him and just the interesting abilities that he has. But then he's always around. Like, there's always a gateway into the character. Like, for me, it was the reruns of, like, the 67 animated show that used to play during, like, this syndicated kids show that we had in the city called the Buckshot Show. They'd show, like, the Spider-Man episodes in the middle of the show. So there was that, and then he would show up on the Electric Company, and I remember, like, watching that show all the time. Just, like, it was painful and terrible, but I'd watch it for, like, the monsters that they'd have on there, and I'd watch it for, like, the little weird live action Spider-Man that they'd have on there every once in a while. And then the 80s, I don't know that we got the solo Spider-Man show up here, but Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, like,
yes.
and the Incredible Hulk show, like, that was 1,000% my gateway into the character, and that's where I fell in love with him. And just the look of him, they really went out of their way to capture the kind of the Ross Andrew Romita Sr. look of the character. So then he reflected what was going on in the comic books, and you just lust after those books on the shelf. And yeah, it was just, I think that he's always there and he's always accessible, and there's an avenue in for anybody that wants to take it, kind of thing. And even more so now as you've evolved it and you have characters like Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales and any flavor of Spider-Man that you want, you can have them. And there's just so much Peter Parker stuff that if you want that, you could go your whole life and not consume it all. So I think that's what it is that he's ever present and always accessible.
Definitely. What about you, Troy? You know,
Yeah.
we often call you the Spidey guy on
Yeah.
on the podcast. This is one of your characters.
Mhm.
What is it about Spidey? You know, picking up some of those threads that Carlos talked about his accessibility and his presence in the media, whether it's comic books or theme park rides or video games, or what is it about Spider-Man for you?
Well, I love what Carlos said, especially like like the easy access into the character. When you think of the X-Men, when you think of the Avengers or Star Wars, there's so much lore behind them, and there's so much lore behind Spider-Man. But Spider-Man is kind of just like always been there, much like the Batman, Superman. It's just so easy to get into. Everybody knows the origin story of radioactive spider, or Superman fell from Krypton, and Batman with Crime Alley, right? Everybody kind of knows those three figures, and I feel like Spider-Man, though, what he has over them, he's the best to do it in red and blue. He does it better than Soups in some way, and the look and the design is just so appealing. Like Carlos mentions, with the white eyes, but the personality. Like, he's cracking jokes. He has all these different silly names. He has the Spidey, he has the Webhead, the Wall Crawler, and I remember even these times like my parents would throw around those names. And like, wow, this is crazy. Like, my mom knows who like Spidey is. Like, this is something that we can connect over. And then you have that 67's cartoon and the cool jazzy music of him climbing up the walls. I always loved like that jazz in Spider-Man. I thought that's so cool. And his power set was just so different than anything else. He wasn't flying, he was web swinging. And I think it was Carlos that sent me a video of Todd McFarlane talking about Spider-Man, and when he explains how he draws the way he web swings, and at this time Todd McFarlane was drawing it differently than anybody else. But when I grew up, that's kind of the Spider-Man that I was seeing in the comics. And it was so interesting to see how this character web swings through New York, through these skyscrapers, as opposed to just flying or having a jet, or at the time being Submariner or Aquaman, swimming through the ocean. Spider-Man is doing something that nobody else is doing. He's not teleporting, he's web swinging, and he's cracking jokes, and he's webbing the bad guys, he's leaving you the little notes, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But he's the little guy. He's doing all these things, but he's not going back to his big mansion. He doesn't own a corporation. He's getting beat up by his boss by the other end, who doesn't actually know that this guy's saving the day. Like J. Jonah Jameson absolutely hates who Peter Parker is, but doesn't know who Peter Parker really is. And there's such a cool concept there that this guy's doing so much, but he's still, at the end of the day, this little person that kind of gets beat up by the world. He started off as Peter Parker being beat up in high school, and now he's this bigger thing, Spider-Man, but he's still being beat up by the bigger peoples around him. And the cool thing to me as well as in the comics is the things like the potential. Spider-Man always has the potential to be the best, and it's early in the comics. I think it's like, I can't remember, it's super early, but I think it's when he goes into the Fantastic Four building, and Thor, basically all the Avengers, all the big time heroes are out, and Spider-Man's the only one that can do what he needs to do. And I think Thor's taking off, like, I gotta go, and he sees who Spider-Man is, and he's like, but that kid has like potential. And there's characters that like, this guy could almost have the might of Thor. This character could be as smart as Tony Stark. And I always thought that was really cool. And it's something I really liked with Andrew Garfield's performance of Spider-Man, because he always seemed like the Peter Parker that has the potential to become bigger than everybody else with that responsibility. It's such a cool and key thing with that character, that moral compass, that slogan nobody else has. That great power comes great responsibility. It's a huge thing, and it's something that pretty much everyone can live by, and it's echoed really in Into the Spider-Verse without it being beaten over your head. They don't even say it, but it's there, it's felt. And I just think it's such an amazing thing, and that this character will always live just for things like that, because everybody can see themselves in that character, right?
Totally.
So,
Well, and to build on
yeah.
what you were saying, like, the appeal of Batman is that anybody could be Batman. Like, nobody could be as rich as him, but he's, at the end of the day, he's a regular guy, and there's always a threat to him. Like, he's, it could be the Joker that kills him, or it could just be a group of gangbangers that overwhelm him or whatever.
Yes.
And Spider-Man's the same way. Like, Spider-Man has his powers, but Spider-Man could technically get killed by anybody. So people can relate to that. But also, I think like the biggest thing going for Spider-Man is that he's a poor guy. And
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
like that really resonates with people. And how many stories do you have with Spider-Man where he's already somebody that society's kind of beaten down, like his aunt is in a bad way, they're not flush with means, but he still does the right thing even to his detriment. And I think like
Yes.
that's the most special thing about Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and I think that's the thing that the Amazing movies got the best. Like, I adore the Andrew Garfield Sally Field relationship and the way that
Oh,
they
it's the
played that
best.
up. and like just those small things, like, and you know what, to their credit, like the Rami movies did the same thing as well, with her having to give up her house and whatnot, but like Aunt May having to go and work like night shifts at the hospital and do waitressing jobs and getting pushed around by her bosses, and it's happening to Peter too. Like those things really resonate with people because the vast majority of people are not flush with cash like Tony Stark, right? They're
Right.
like most of society probably lives that Parker life more so than rolling with the Waynes. So
Well, and to build off that even more, the message with Spider-Man, right? What he represents, like you guys are saying, you can translate across decades, right? And it still is meaningful today. The greater good, doing the right thing. And whether that message is in 2021 or 1962, it still has a pretty powerful meaning. You know, we've seen the evolution of some of the big characters at both Marvel and DC over the last couple of years, especially, and what they were in the 60s is a little different from what they are now. And you take a guy like Cap or Superman, we're seeing them evolve a little bit. The essence of them is still there, but there's some importance behind their meaning that is evolving. But Spider-Man's is the same, right? Whether it's in the movies or the comics or the TV shows, it's always there. That message is the same. Great power, great responsibility. Do the right thing, the greater good. And it might even apply more so now, more than ever.
Yeah.
Right? And so like there's just something about that's one thing I've always loved. I've never been a steadfast Spidey guy, but he's always present, and that messaging has always been very powerful, I think, to me. You ask most people that line and they could probably quote it. Some people might not know where it's from, but the fact that it's become something bigger than that, beyond even Spider-Man, I think shows the importance of the messaging that's built into that character in particular.
yeah, everybody can say it except Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Well, it took a lot. It took a lot of years for Cap to say Avengers Assemble.
We'll
so
see.
I'll give him another 10. Will.
Yeah, you got about 48 hours, man.
Yeah.
Plus 2.5 before that. So we can't talk about Spidey without talking about comic books. This is where the character grew. This is where the character was created. So Troy, speak to me about some of those arcs. We don't have to go into detail.
Yeah.
But what are some of those arcs that you've read that exemplify who and what Spidey is all about?
Well, I mean, to sum things up, because that's a lot. I could honestly say the whole arc of Ultimate Spider-Man to Ultimate Fallout, that whole Bendis run and Sarah Pichelli is just
She's
phenomenal
awesome.
work. And especially, we talk about like current times and bringing it updated. I mean, now, like, yeah, the 2000s might be a little dated, but that was basically to bring the whole Marvel world in a 2000 timeline where there's cell phones and internet. And man, did they ever knock it out of the park, because it's Spider-Man really and the Ultimates that really elevated the Ultimate Universe. So I would always suggest that one. For me, I'm a Dan Slott guy. I love what Dan Slott did with Spider-Man, and I talk about the potential that Spider-Man always has, but I also like to see that potential get met. And Dan Slott did those things. He gave us the superior Spider-Man, which was Doc Ock invading his body, but he really elevated that Spider-Man to like, what if Spider-Man had the tech of Batman, but the mind of Peter used all the way 100%, and he could actually protect New York pretty much on his own at all means necessary. And it's such a great take on the character of Spider-Man, with having a ghost of Peter Parker constantly nagging Doc Ock to be like, hey man, I'm reminding you with great power comes great responsibility. So that's a cool arc.
I love
Spider-Man
that
the Big Time. It's a great run.
it's one of
Spider-Man
the few runs. No, the Superior is one of the few runs I've actually read from
Okay.
like 700 through Superior.
Yeah, just before, so it's like 6 something.
698, I think.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I remember I got a lot of flack because at times people were like, "What? Like you're gonna kill off Peter Parker and put in Doc Ock?" But it worked, and it actually made me love Doc Ock like more than pretty much most villains of Peter. So that one's a cool one. The Grim Hunt. It's darker. It's not really a great reflection of the Spider-Man we just talked about, but it's necessary, and that's a phenomenal run. Grim Hunt, the Gauntlet, Spider-Man the Big Time, Horizon Labs, which is cool because Horizon Labs has been popping up in some of like the current media right now, actually, with Spider-Man. That's a great run. It's basically Peter working. I think it's actually the best job for Peter Parker, and it's him working for an actual lab, and he's actually an inventor, and he's creating tech for his pal Spider-Man, which is a little bit of like an old school throwback to Tony Stark working for Iron Man, or Iron Man working for Tony Stark. So that's a great run. And then another one to cap it off, I actually really like Parker Industries. Again, reaching his complete potential on his own, with a little bit of help of Doc Ock, but he owns his own industries of Parker Particles, Parker Industries, and it's a really cool kind of take on Spider-Man where his responsibility is bigger now. He's corporate. He's gone corporate, but he has to like keep people employed while being Spider-Man, and it's actually a really cool run. So I suggest a lot of people to not sleep on Dan Slott's run. There's a lot of great issues in that whole, I think 200 issues maybe he did. He ran it for about 5 or plus years, maybe even more. It's a long run.
Yeah, I think he's got the record, doesn't he?
I think he does.
Spider-Man
it's
the most.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no,
the Spider-Verse, like that's all him. That's Dan Slott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Nick Spencer love?
No, we're in good times
Sorry.
right now.
We're celebrating Spider-Man. We're celebrating.
I couldn't help
Spider-Man.
myself.
That's hilarious.
Carlos, man, you've been reading Spidey for quite some time.
Yeah. You know what? And Troy hit on everything. Like, I couldn't have done a better job with the modern Spider-Man stuff. Like, obviously the Jerry Conway, J.D. DeMatteis stuff, the David Michelin era, like, those are the seminal moments of the character that we see adapted to the big screen. Like, Jerry Conway doing the death of Gwen Stacy. Like, those were all things that we had never seen and never expected, and really subverted expectations, right? So those are pretty amazing stories. And if you don't want to read the 70s comics, you can read something like Spider-Man Blue by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale that revisits that, and that's an incredible retelling of that tale. And I'll always have a soft spot for the David Michelin, Todd McFarlane era of the books, like watching Todd come up, and it was just cool. And you know, he really found his own voice, and then watching him draw like the background characters with the Flames and Oilers jerseys and stuff like that, and just little pieces, to the point that he became the biggest selling point for Spider-Man. And they gave him the book, and he was writing it, and like, I'll admit, like the pictures were a lot better than the writing that accompanied you. To be honest, like Uncle Todd would probably tell you that as well. But it was just a cool era, and that was like when I was buying comic books myself for the first time and whatnot, and chasing those bagged variants and all that kind of nonsense. And
oh yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, it was a good time. But there's no shortage of great Spider-Man stories out there. There's maybe a few too many of them right now, but there's plenty of resources from this podcast out to lots of top 10 lists and whatnot, where you can find some pretty special Spider-Man stories out there.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. And, you know, an avenue where a lot of people probably got introduced to Spider-Man outside of the animated series and outside of the comic books is, of course, film. You know, Spider-Man has been present in film on the big screen since the year 2000, when we got the debut of the Raimi series with Tobey Maguire. Is that his name? Is that him? Yeah, Tobey Maguire. My head, I got something else weird there, but the debut of
you're just pushing it out of your mind. It's like Troy with Venom 2 and the Eternals.
Right? With the debut of Tobey Maguire in the role of Peter Parker, the first time we're seeing the web-slinging live action. We've got Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. We've got Goblin, who's returning.
Yes.
William Dafoe. This movie, this trilogy really sparks something in the comic book movie genre. It was the first movie in history to debut at over $100 million, with $114 million. This first movie is still the highest grossing, unadjusted domestic total for the box office in all of the Spider-Man, with $403 million, outgrossing both Far From Home and Homecoming, Spider-Verse, the other two Spider-Man, and all the amazing stuff, which is, it's crazy to think that movie from the year 2000, unadjusted, grossed $400 million and is still the highest grossing Spidey film in history. We may see it eclipsed with No Way Home, but that's going to be a difficult feat in this era. So Spider-Man may be the highest grossing and will forever be the highest grossing Spider-Man film. I did not until I did a little bit of research for this. You had asked me, I would have said, well, it's Far From Home or Homecoming for sure.
Yeah. Well,
No doubt.
If you adjust for inflation, it's gonna have that crown forever, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nothing is going to touch that in a solo Spider-Man film. And then you look at how this developed. It bona fide this genre to be a true moneymaker. You did not see the success outside of really 89, and we were only getting these films every couple of years. You know, we go from Spider-Man, what was that, year 2000, and then it's year 2002 when we get Spider-Man 2?
Mm-hmm.
And, or no, it was 2002 when Spider-Man came out. Sorry, X-Men came out in the year 2000. And
2004
then 2004, 2005, 2004, yeah, June 2004, we get Spider-Man 2. So these movies start coming out at a pace. The idea of the trilogy in the superhero genre, like Spider-Man 2 grosses $375 million, opens to $88 million. Spider-Man 3 opens to $151 million. That is the highest opening for a Spider-Man film, higher than Far From Home, higher than Homecoming. And so the importance of this, just from a financial perspective, we're going to talk about quality in a second here, but this took that business, that model, and made it viable. It set a pretty strong foundation alongside the likes of your Batman films and also your X-Men films to create that foundation for really what we get post 2008, right? When we get into that Nolan era, that early MCU era, where these movies are now the pillar, I will say, of Hollywood. They're holding up a good chunk of Hollywood. These are the highest grossing movies of the last 6-7 years, are all superhero movies. And there's a lot that I think these films owe to Spider-Man for proving it to be a business model that actually works. Now let's talk about these films a little bit. We can kind of throw all three of them. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I've been going through a little bit of a rewatch of all of them in anticipation of appearances of certain characters in Spider-Man No Way Home, bringing together the multiverse and actually really full circle this whole conversation from 2002 forward into 2021. Almost, you could say almost 20 years, 2 decades, just shy of that. And we're coming full circle on these characters that we're seeing in this universe. Even with this director, Sam Raimi, coming back and doing Multiverse of Madness, coming back into the Marvel fray here in 2022. So let's talk about Sam Raimi. We can go kind of all over the place. Let's talk about the suit. Let's talk about Maguire. But Troy,
Yeah.
the kickoff of Spider-Man live action 2002. You're sitting in the theater or at home watching it on VHS or DVD, whatever it was. Let's talk about your experience and your reception then, and maybe even now with subsequent rewatches and all that.
You know, at the time, it was breathtaking. At the time, it was the best thing I've ever seen. I'm still the little kid coming off the Wizard magazines, and they had the DiCaprio, James Cameron Spider-Man going on. So that, for me, was like the first Spider-Man live action. Obviously, never happened. So we got this guy, Tobey Maguire, which I knew nothing about. But at the time, like, everything worked. I thought the coolest thing is when he got bit by the spider. He's feeling sick. He wakes up in his bedroom and he's ripped. And he's like,
Yeah.
not Toby, Peter, you feeling okay? He's like, yeah, I'm feeling great, as he's flexing. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I want to get bit by a spider, you know? Like, it was just awesome. And just that, the little things they did in that film was really cool. And I feel like the overall story of it was cool. My problem was, I guess I just jumped, like, my reaction from, like, how I felt back then to, like, now. But I'm just going to jump to right now. So, I liked the movie back then, but I'm going to talk about right now. So, the actors, I don't feel like Toby now especially was the right fit as Peter Parker, especially now that I'm more invested in Spider-Man than I've ever been. It doesn't line up. And then Kirsten Dunst, even back then, has never, ever felt like Mary Jane for me. The girl next door like MJ has like that fire in her. Like, she doesn't need Spider-Man half the time. Like, she can like hold it down. She's like Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, without the powers. You know, like, she's just a very, you know, she holds it down. And so when you watch this movie, it didn't work for me. She seems so miscast. The best person, honestly, is Franco. Right?
Yes,
Harry's
100%.
Harry's fantastic in the, and I love William Dafoe's take on Green Goblin. I think he's actually, and like the father-son relationship between those two, and you can kind of see he looks at Peter like, I'd almost want Peter to be more of my son than Harry, because Harry's kind of a, like a dimwit in some ways. But I think those two's dynamic is amazing. The costume at the time was cool. I loved even the CGI. I thought was really great. He moved like Spider-Man pretty well, but not to the point where I'd like him to be. Like Spider-Man needs to be low and very agile, and I feel like they did it a little bit in that film. And I guess it's it's you can only do what you can back then with the CGI, but that's nitpicking. But basically, for me, Peter Parker has to be the standout, and Toby's was just awkward, and not in like the Peter Parker way. It was very robotic. A lot of the lines that he went through, and
Day
like
by day.
But the thing is, it's so bad because I've gone back to Spider-Man 2 the video game, and that was like breathtaking back then. Spider-Man 2 the video game was basically Grand Theft Auto with Spider-Man, and they got Tobey Maguire, most of the cast, the movie cast, to voice act that video game. And if you listen to Tobey Maguire in that video game again, it is so bad. It's some of the worst voice acting you'll ever hear, and it's just like Bruce said over here, like day by day, there's the girl of my dreams, and it's just so bad how he delivered. I think I even delivered it better, and it's just not very good. And then when you get to Andrew Garfield, it's like a level up. Like, oh my god, because he's hands down, he's the better actor. Like, I don't care what anybody wants to say. Andrew Garfield is the better actor than Tobey Maguire, and he owns that role as
Every
Peter
day of
Parker,
the week, man.
as Spider-Man, right? So that's my 2 cents. But I don't want to beat on Spider-Man, because Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, and I even Spider-Man 3 in some aspects, I really do enjoy. And, you kind of play with the toys that you had back then, and you enjoy them for what they were. But then, back now, or looking forward now, it's just like, I don't feel like it aged the best. Spider-Man.
No.
1. Yeah.
And I think there's very much to your point about it's not about tearing the films down, but it more so appreciating what they did. I think for me, for the genre, for the character and all that. But I'm very much in the same space as you when it comes to Toby and Kirsten Dunst. Kirsten Dunst I don't know what it is, but her eyes. You look at her eyes, and there is literally nothing there. Like nothing. Yeah. As she's talking. So you get to 2, and it's like, whoa, what happened to like this poor woman?
Yeah.
And Parker, from the moment you see him, he's way too old for me. He looks as old as I do right now, but really close shave.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Maguire and Dunst take me right out of it in a lot of this. And going back, and I know 2 is always hailed as one of the best ever, and it's fine. It is of the time, I think. I don't think that these things can stand even close to anything that's being put out from 2008, 2005 forward. I think that they stand on their own in their own little world. But you take them out and you try to shoulder them with what we got today, it's not even close, in my opinion. And Franco's the best. I threw it on Twitter the other day because I thought it was like this hot take, but apparently everyone agrees with it. That Franco is, his arc is the best.
Yeah.
His acting is the best. He's the most believable in the role. And yeah, I love the films for what they are, but I do struggle a lot. And it's going to be curious, like if Maguire comes back, if he'll fill the role a little differently as an older Peter Parker, maybe. But yeah, and like Carlos said, it's like sometimes people are holding up big cardboard cutouts of what he needs to say, and he's just like literally reading it off of the camera, right? Like, it's like, dude.
I think it was Sonny, though, we were talking to, and he mentioned that Spider-Man 2, I think he said, the script is really good. And and I really agree with that. I actually think Spider-Man 2 script is great. I think the actual story of Spider-Man 2, I think Doc Ock is actually fantastic in Spider-Man 2. And I like Peter's kind of like doubt in himself of carrying the weight of Spider-Man, and whether him losing his powers is kind of weird, that whatever's going on in his head with him losing his powers, and then he gets to kind of be Peter Parker without having to hold on to the weight of being Spider-Man and live his life. But then it comes back and it reminds him, like, no, you got to be Spider-Man. Like, I kind of like that whole full circle. But for me, it just comes down to the performances. Because like I said, like Doc Ock's performance is great. Franco's performance is great. But then it's Peter and it's MJ, the characters that you're meant to care about the most. Performances isn't. And like, I really, really hate seeing Peter Parker in that film. Like, the more Spider-Man he is, the better for me. Because the more Toby I see, the more it takes me out of the film. Right.
Man, the Vigilante Boys aren't going to like us this week. I'm sorry, guys. Carlos, any thoughts on Rami and what he does and what that franchise brings? And, we get characters like Sandman and Venom introduced in this, Doc Ock. We've got Goblin and whatever Harry's Goblin is. Like, there's a lot of characters that come into this. And at times that might be why we're seeing a lot of those characters being brought into No Way Home as opposed to a more prevalent Toby or that Spider-Man. I'm curious as to where you're sitting on these. I know you have a name for Toby in your household.
And it's not even my name. It's like my innocent little daughter who has loved Spider-Man since she was like literally a toddler. Like, we have videos of her. She can barely walk, but she's dancing with this like inflatable Spider-Man. But she has always referred to him as the crying Spidey. Like, to this day. She couldn't tell you that his name's Tobey Maguire. But she's like, yeah, Crying Spidey. Why are we watching Crying Spidey 3? Or whatever. But that is how he's known in this house. For me, like, my perspective is a bit different because I came from the era where you took any comic book movie or offering from that genre and you just absorbed it and you supported it. And it's like, I don't care that Wolverine is 6 feet tall and drop dead good, gorgeous, and wearing black leather. It's the X-Men and he has the claws, and that's as good as we're gonna get, kind of thing, right? And I don't care that Batman is dressed all in black and can't really move, because that's as good as it's gonna be for Batman, right? And we did get like fantastic Christopher Reeve's Superman, Michael Keaton's Batman was awesome, but then like all the other stuff, you just kind of took it, right? Like, you'd even go out and watch movies like Mystery Men because it was a comic book offering, right? So when those Spider-Man movies hit, it was like, this is awesome because this is a really good interpretation of the character. It leans into some of the comic booky stuff pretty good, and maybe this is the best we're ever gonna get. Like, make no mistake about it, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, both in and out of the outfit, was always way too stiff for me, and him with Kristen Dunst's Mary Jane is just, it is the most obtuse stuff that you will ever see in a movie. Like, comic book to CBC Sunday night taxpayer movie. Like, it is the worst. Like, good Lord. But you just took it because that's all that's all you could get. Like, and it hasn't helped that Tobey Maguire, the guy, is not the best dude in the world either. It gets revealed over later years, so I don't revisit those movies very often, if at all. But there is magic, and there is some special stuff to those movies, and like the train fight with Doc Ock is still one of the best comic book action scenes that you'll see to film.
Yes.
Until he gets knocked down and they have he's just a kid. It's like, dude, he's older than you are. It's like,
kid is 45.
Yeah. And like, and here's your mask, and like, just terrible. But like, for its time, like, it elevated the genre. And if those Spider-Man movies don't work, we never have Warner Brothers pushing to do Batman again and get the glory that is the Dark Knight trilogy, which doesn't push Marvel Studios to get their house in order and put out Iron Man. And it was the first rising tide that started lifting the ship. So
yeah. That importance of them cannot be understated. And there's a lot of great merits and accolades that can be tossed at those Spider-Man films, but in retrospect, they're of the time for sure. But then you move into the Amazing era. Look, I've just revisited these films after thinking that they just weren't for me. Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012. It came out in the year of the Avengers, right? The big build up to Avengers. And it kind of got lost, I think, this movie. Because when I revisited Garfield and this film, this is a good film. Like, I was so surprised when I revisited this thinking, wait a minute, I didn't like this, or I thought I didn't like this film. Like, what is wrong with me?
Now, I haven't been able to rewatch Feige stuff. You needed to stay in the house that Avi built.
Yeah. Come on. Well, one day we'll give you guys some insight into the DM I got sent earlier today.
Oh, man.
The words that followed started with an F and ended with a U. No. All in good fun though. But no, seriously, amazing. I haven't got to Amazing 2 yet again, but I just thought these were things that got swept under the rug. Like there is so much in here that Andrew Garfield brings, and Emma Stone. Like the chemistry, it's so palpable on screen, and him as Peter Parker. I love the emo take on it. I love him. As soon as he gets a suit on, he's a completely different dude. Everything that Garfield brings to this role, and the story with the lizard, it's so good. And I know 2 gets overstuffed, and they're racing a little bit here to try to catch up to the post-Avengers world of Marvel or comic book movies, right? Where everything has to be connected, and you got to be building this universe instead of just focusing on the character. Like Amazing does a lot where it seeds the parents and all this different stuff, but it just puts it out there. It's building for a solo franchise, and 2 really takes it and says, no, we need a universe now. Like, I wonder what world we'd be living in if they maintained the quality and the storytelling into 2 that they had in 1 with Andrew Garfield. Like, Andrew and Gwen are still great in that. The death of Gwen Stacy is awesome in that film, but it gets overshadowed by a lot of big stuff, a lot of building, walking through the basement of Oscorp, right? Even Osborn, they rushed. Like, it was cool in 1 that they didn't even reveal who Norman Osborn was, that he was just a figurehead, right? He was like the quote unquote Thanos for that world, where we're going to give you an outline of him and we'll deal with that later. But then they kind of rushed to that in 2 instead of probably where it should have been as 3, right? Where you get maybe Harry in 2 and you get Norman and company in 3. So Troy, you're nodding your head in agreement here as well with Amazing. Coming back to this one, look, they ended that original series in 2007, so there's a 5-year hiatus before we get Amazing. 2 comes out in 14. Boom, by 16 we're rebooted again. So this era of Spider-Man on film kind of gets just pushed to the corner, and I think a lot of people forget about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's all about to change after Thursday, man. Because listen, like, Amazing Spider-Man 1 it's my go-to next to Homecoming. I remember my wife, girlfriend at the time, was like, look who they cast to play Peter Parker, and I'm like, oh my god, like the Social Network guy. Like, I didn't know a ton about him, but I'm like, I like it. It was a casting choice that I went purely off of the look, and I was like, yes, absolutely, I'm sold. And I remember the next photo we got reveal was Peter Parker. It looked like Spider-Man just came out with a fight with Lizard, and his head's kind of down, but his mask is off, and he's like in an alleyway. That was like one of the first images they showed, and I was like, give me this. I love this costume. There's so much blue, just enough red. And I see the movie, and instantly I fell in love with it, because I'm coming off of Spectacular Spider-Man, the cartoon, which is like the best take on the character next to like the PS4 and obviously some of the great comic book story arcs. And to see Andrew Garfield basically take that kind of approach to the character, because I feel like it is very much like the Spectacular Spider-Man approach of Peter Parker, with a bit of that New York style. It was so cool. It was grounded, because we were in like the Dark Knight world now, so it is a little bit more of a grounded Spider-Man take. Their whole pitch was the untold story, right? So the real like happenings of Peter Parker's parents, what they were up to, scientists, agents, whatever they were doing. I guess they went with scientists in this one. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It didn't really bother me, but I was like, that's cool. I'll take it for what it is, because like Carlos mentioned, Sally Fields and Peter Parker's dynamic. And then also you have Uncle Ben, played by Sheen, right?
Martin Sheen.
Oh my goodness, it was so good. And then like Sally Fields and Peter Parker's relationship elevates even more so in part 2. Like, say what you want about part 2, but unlike the Tobey Maguires that in some ways had the better scripts, but I complained a lot about the characters, this one is in reverse when it comes to Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2. The characters, the actors bring it. Everybody, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield, like their chemistry, in my opinion, it's the best on-screen romantic chemistry we've had. It's so good.
Sure.
And I'm coming from the guy that's like, I'm a Peter Parker Mary Jane person over Peter Parker and Gwen, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And the scene where she passes in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is something else. But Amazing Spider-Man 1, you know, I love Peter Parker with a backpack on. It gives it to me. I love Peter Parker Spider-Man fighting in the high school. They give it to me. I love the banter. They gave it to me. Like everything, like a check mark was just lighting up in my hand because I felt like that book absolutely nailed it. I like the help of like the New Yorkers backing up Peter Parker a little bit. I like Spider-Man saving the kid, put on the mask, like all that kind of stuff to me is just like
Oh yeah, that's
something
so good.
else. It's really good. It's really powerful. Him using the web and kind of feeling like the vibrations of the web when the lizards in the
Oh.
sewers, like all that stuff was just so cool. The web shooters were back. Like, man, it was so good. And much like Ben Affleck, I feel like it's like a missed opportunity to not go further with Andrew Garfield or Ben Affleck. That's how I felt with Andrew Garfield. I mean, I know part two bombed, but man, a part of me was like, just put Andrew Garfield in the MCU. Like, I would love to see this guy go back and forth with Tony. I would love to see
Mm.
that, you know? It's really special. For me, I just think Amazing Spider-Man 1 is great. And I feel like it just ages better and better every time I go back to it. I love it. I love him skateboarding and he's swinging across the chains as he's figuring out how to
Mhm.
web shoot. And he's on the hunt for the guy that killed his uncle. All that stuff to me, I just felt like they nailed it. Absolutely. I think Sony did a really good job. And Mark Webb, I think Mark Webb doesn't get enough credit for what he did with
Yeah.
that film because you can feel the executives, you know, claws in part two. But I feel like part
Oh,
one,
for
they were
sure.
just like, Mark Webb, have fun, do what you want, and
Mhm.
he killed it. He absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, and we almost got Andrew in the MCU.
Yeah,
In that
almost.
time frame, post 2012, there's a lot of discussions of the potential for, I believe, Avengers Tower showing up in two and Oscorp Tower showing up in an MCU film and all this,
Yes.
and that all fell apart with Amazing Spider-Man 2. It is really unfortunate. You know, if you're gonna go back and watch a film before No Way Home, I'd say
Yeah.
Amazing 1 is probably the one to go to. If you really want to go back to some of these. Carlos, talk to me about Amazing here and your experiences with it and kind of this in-between era of Spider-Man. You know, Raimi always gets hailed as having this amazing trilogy. Amazing is kind of in the middle before you get to 16's debut and then the running of now a new trilogy with Holland. But Amazing Spider-Man, there's a lot of merit there, and I think people are missing out.
Oh yeah. Well, what else is there to say? I think Troy wrapped it up beautifully with hitting on all the high points, all the things that that movie really brings. And if you've listened to episodes of this podcast, you know that my family is ride or die with Andrew Garfield for a lot of reasons, and we got a special bond with that guy that you just can't break. But for me, it's the scene where Peter's down and out. He's been shot by the police in the leg, and he just has to keep going. And he like webs his leg up, and he's just trying to get his locomotion going so he can keep moving. And then there's the dad of the kid who's like the crane operator,
Yeah.
and he hooks up Spider-Man, and then he calls the rest. Like people hate that scene. I love it. I love it because that is Spider-Man to me. Like the guy who is beaten down, who could very easily, like the easiest thing for him to do is just take his ball and go home. It's like,
Yeah.
police, the lizard is actually your problem. You shot me. You're treating me like crap. Like the easiest play for me is to just go home because you don't want my help, and it's frankly not my problem. But he's the guy that steps up and takes care of business, and like that, and the stuff with Aunt May, like I talked about already, like it is just Spider-Man encapsulated perfectly. Honestly, the amazing, if they had had a bit of restraint and like realized that the Richard and Mary Parker stuff, it doesn't even work in the comics. Like Richard and Mary Parker are the best when they're the absent parents, like the
Yeah.
parents that died in an unknown way, and it's left to this boy to be raised by his aunt. Like
Yeah.
that is the best version of it, right? And so like honestly, that is really what weighed down Amazing One. Like anytime that movie gets clunky, it's the Richard and Mary Parker stuff. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2, that is just an anchor on that whole movie, because I think you could have had a great movie like Jamie Foxx campaigning for the role of Electro. I think is what might have undermined what Mark Webb's plans were for Amazing 2. But you could have had a great movie if you just did Electro, or if you just did the Osbournes,
Yes.
or if you had seated the Osbournes in the background
Yeah.
of Amazing 2, but you don't take it to the death of Gwen Stacy And if you skip Norman as the Green Goblin, like that's cool. It's something different, but you build to that in your Spider-Man 3 kind of thing. But yeah, like Tim, you kind of said, they were in such a rush to catch the MCU and get to their Sinister Six and build their Spider-Man world that they ended up tripping over their own feet. It looks like, you know, God's good graces has got them in a position where Spider-Man is back better than ever, but it'll always be that unknown. Like, what if? Kind of like with Spider-Man 3, right?
Yeah.
What if they had just left Sam Raimi alone, not force Venom on him, let him tell the story he wanted to and get to the Vulture and whatever else, and maybe build to Venom, maybe not. And now with Amazing, it's like, what if they had just let Mark Webb tell the story he wanted to tell, build things more organically, and see where it goes, instead of like, let's force this, let's get the Gwen Stacy thing done and out of the way so that we can have the Sinister Six and all these other things and have our own little MCU type of thing in the Sony side of the house. So yeah, man.
It is a shame, and it's an interesting what if, because it's either one thing or the other. It's Andrew's in the MCU, or they just kept going with this franchise and Spider-Man never makes an appearance in the MCU. And like you said, Troy, it becomes a more Boseman-centric Civil War. And he has a different role to play, which then cascades into his own film, and it changes everything. So there's so much there that these small decisions ended up really making the MCU what it is today. And I'd be curious, what is the MCU without Spider-Man, Carlos? Like, what is it in the absence of 16 Civil War, and then the follow-up with Homecoming and what he brings in Infinity War and Endgame, and then the prologue to, or the epilogue, I should say, to Endgame with Far From Home. We've seen Holland here. This is his 5th outing coming up here? 6? Yeah, 6 outing in the last 5-6 years. So in the timeline of this podcast, we've seen Holland on screen 6 times.
Yeah. Man, I hate to break it to you. I think the MCU loses a lot of steam without Spider-Man in it. Like, I think that the wheels fall off that thing, where people, I don't know, like, just like Troy said off the hop, like, it's like having Disney without Mickey Mouse. It's like having the Justice League without Superman. Like, Spider-Man is the draw. Like, growing up, the Marvel characters were Spider-Man, the Hulk, and then Captain America was the kind of third guy that would show up, and then it was just random characters after that, right? Yeah, man, that's what it was in the 80s. Like, Spider-Man reigns supreme.
Yeah,
and
X-Men really didn't get it started till later, right? Like the 90s, really. Yeah,
mid-90s.
Yeah, that's where X-Men really took off, and and those characters, they performed in the comics, and people loved them, and they had their fans, but they were never ever, like, there was a steep drop off from Spider-Man and the Hulk to the rest of the characters in the Marvel pantheon. So, I am curious to know what it would have been like had they, like, as much as people like to think that Spider-Man needed the MCU, I think the MCU needed Spider-Man. Yeah. And look no further than 2021. Like, ain't nobody going back and watching Black Widow or The Eternals or any of those shows. But I guarantee you, people are going to have those repeat viewings of Spider-Man No Way Home on lock, right? So,
well, and it's interesting because I got to give props to my man Kevin Feige on this one, and even Sony, right? Like, no, just for real, I love Kevin Feige, but in a world where there's a lot of hubris behind the MCU, well, we don't need Spider-Man. We've built this already, right? They made avenues in, both of them, both production companies, to make this character happen inside of the MCU. I think there's, like, for lack of a better term, a symbiote relationship here with Spider-Man and Sony, and then also the benefits that the MCU has gotten. There's a lot of moments, even in those big crescendo style of films with the Infinity Saga, that Spider-Man is integral to. Like that suit or not, that armor, the Iron Spider, but he plays such an important role in that, and being dusted, and then his comeback and the story that he brings both in and outside of the team-up movies. I agree with you, Carlos. I'm under no delusion that the MCU is in a much better place because of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to take risks that they have this year, especially with the Eternals and with some of these other films that they've put out that are very different from your mainstays, but because they have characters like Spider-Man that they can rely on. Look, they're putting Spider-Man into this humongous multiverse movie, right? The draw to set up what could be the phase 5, but it's relying a lot on Spider-Man being that initial draw. And the box office doesn't necessarily always reflect that, right? Like with Homecoming debuting to like the 117, just around what Spider-Man did, and pulling in over 300, like substantial money here. But it's so important, I think, that, like you guys said, that Spider-Man is a piece of that. He's going to continue to be a piece of the MCU go forward, post even No Way Home. But Troy, I know you love yourself a good Homecoming viewing.
Yeah, man. Do I ever?
But you know, we've talked about the Raimi Spider-Man. We've talked about Mark Webb's Spider-Man. What is it here about this Spider-Man in the MCU that gets you to the point where Homecoming is your favorite film? You've seen so many versions, including Andrew Garfield, which you just heap tons of praise onto. But
Yes.
what is it about this Spider-Man that, if I can take it back to a question almost from the very start, that resonates with you?
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny because this is the one, like I said, I needed the most selling on. Yes, I'm happy that Spider-Man's in the MCU. I'm still skeptical of Tom Holland. What is he going to be capable of? Even though I saw what he did in 2016's Civil War. But this movie opens up and it takes me right back to Civil War. And it's such a cool take of how to get the audience sped up to where Peter Parker is now, 6 months after the events of Civil War. People have his issues with him, you know, being an Iron Man fanboy. But for me, I just take it back to, well, Iron Man is just his stand-in Fantastic Four. Because if you go back to the original Spidey, he looked up to Reed Richards. He looks up to the Fantastic Four. So, and he's a 16-year-old kid. He's going to look up to some sort of hero that is the Avengers, and it happens to be Iron Man. So that never bothered me. He's in high school. He's there with Ned, which is basically Genki from the Ultimate Comics Miles, which is a nice bonus because I think that character is phenomenal. But Holland is just very, very comfortable in the role. Like, I feel like New York, it's very diverse. He has a really cool cast of characters. Again, it's all about the characters, and I feel like Peter Parker, I feel like Genki, I feel like the Ant, even though she's not my favorite Ant, but I feel like everybody's invested. The little moments that Tony throws in there, it's very like to the point and mentor like, but it's just enough to be like, we're in the MCU, but it's not his film. And I never felt like it was an Iron Man film.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? The Spider-Man costume, I love it. We get more of that. I love him going in the alley and kind of doing like the Flash thing where his costume like suctions onto him. I think that's so cool, and he webs his bag, and that's very comic accurate. We're getting a lot of comic nods in this movie that I feel like a lot of people sleep on. We're not getting the crazy bombastic like web shooting or web swinging that we did in the other films, but I feel like they make up it in other ways. Like the great power, great responsibility is also very heavily implied in this film, where he takes on Vulture at the end of the day without any powers. It shows you the steps that he's gone through, where like, yeah, he has this suit that Tony made him. It's cool, but at the end of the day, without the suit, he can still get the job done, and he does it in his underoos, taking out the Vulture. There's so many cool scenes, like the boat scene when he webs it together. We've seen it in the trailers. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And then Tony gives him a lashing, and you can feel the weight of Peter being like, "Damn, I let this guy down. Like, shoot, I got to."
Especially when he steps out of that suit in that scene. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Here, and he boom, 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 out comes Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. If you need the suit, you're nothing with it, or something like that. If you needed the suit, this is some kind of little lecture he gives him without saying, with great power comes great responsibility. And he lays it on Peter thick. I think Peter in Washington, when he saves the kids on the high school trip, is great. But then you get those moments where Peter's out there with like his peers, his friends, and he just wants to hang out with them. He just wants to party. And that pool scene when he's like, man, like, there's Liz. I really want to hang out with these guys, but I gotta be Spider-Man. I gotta go and bust these other guys. And for me, I'm like, that is Peter Parker. He's putting everything else to the side. He's throwing on that costume. He can't even web swing to where he needs to go. He's gonna like.
I
run
love
there.
that, man.
I think that's it's so good. I love it. You get those little high school party scenes. It gives you a little bit of like those 80 throwbacks to the high school films, but then it's giving you like Spider-Man. I don't know if there's hate out there for this film, but I have zero, obviously. Like, I absolutely love what they do in Spider-Man Homecoming. I think Vulture is one of the best MCU villains of all time. Michael Keaton absolutely nails that role of Adrian. I don't even care about Vulture really in the comics, but Adrian Toomes here, his portrayal is fantastic. When he has that scene with Peter in the car and he basically figures out who Peter Parker really is, and he tells him basically like, I'll kill you. I'll take you down, kid. And the light kind of turns green on Michael Keaton's face, and there's just like this whole kind of like cool kind of take on just like he's evil. This guy's a bad dude. But then later on, obviously, when the film finishes, you kind of get a sense that maybe Vulture really isn't the worst guy ever, but he's still a villain. He's still a foe. And he has a little bit of respect for Peter at the end because he doesn't, at least from what I take, he doesn't give up his identity to Scorpion. But for me, man, I'm all there. And my last thing is we get that cool moment of Peter Parker with like the whole like warehouse tumbling down. And it's that iconic moment from that comic. Ah, shoot. I can't remember the name of it now, but basically he's holding up the whole place and he's like, I gotta do this. He's basically crying in there and he gets through the rubble. And that's like, that is comic accurate. There's so many goodies throughout this whole film. And it's great, man. I have a blast with this film. I can go through it any time of the year. Obviously I do. It's great, man. And I can't wait to see more from Tom Holland. I can't wait to see part 3 and how that ties back to part 1. It's just, I'm hyped. I'm all there.
I love it. I love just listening to you digest and break down these films throughout the course of this. So, Carlos, we've got No Way Home in front of us here, man. We've got the trilogy capper for Spider-Man in this, his 6th appearance. We're not going to talk predictions because you can go back and listen to last year's worth of those.
Well, and the movie will be out by the time a lot of people listen to it, so we'll sound
exactly.
foolish.
So, let's go post No Way Home, man. You know, we've talked a lot about Spider-Man in the MCU over the course of the last couple of years and all his appearances. You can listen to our reviews. But what's next for Spider-Man? You know, we've gone through so much with this character in the 2 decades of film, in the, 70 years, 60 years of this character being around in the comic book. So much with the animated series, and there's a love and passion for this character that it will just go on forever. But where do we go next with him?
I think he becomes like your ambassador character a bit, where he'll take that role that Tony Stark had in Homecoming, and he'll be the guy introducing your Fantastic Four into your MCU.
Very cool.
A couple other characters, and I think Sony is in a position where undoubtedly they have all these big plans, and you've kind of run out of road where you can introduce characters like Venom and Morbius, and now you're looking at Kraven without Spider-Man. Like, it's always this big gaping hole in your universe, so they have to figure out something, and that's got to be the thing that I'm the most excited with No Way Home, is to see how they reconcile that. And I don't think there's any doubt that there is some answer to that question, that be it Holland or Garfield or maybe variants or whatever the hell you want to do. But I do need a Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Verse. And yeah, I do want to see Spider-Man kind of thriving and doing his own thing. Like I talked about, like one of the most special things about Spider-Man is when he's the everyman who's struggling and of limited means. And I think that's like, I really love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I do adore Homecoming. It's one of my favorite MCU movies. But that's like, if there's a place that it falls down for me, is you don't get that, right? You don't get seeing him and Aunt May trying to get the rent put together. You don't get to see how his being Spider-Man really affects her. And it seems like we'll get some of that in this movie, which is awesome. But the ever-presence of Tony Stark takes away from that, right? Like, the most unrealistic thing in the world is when you have the billionaire Tony Stark and his protege Peter Parker, but then Peter Parker can't make the rent. Like, come on. There's no scenario in which that actually happens, right?
Or Aunt May's dating Happy Hogan.
And she's... Yeah, and they do seem to shy away from a few of those May and Ben things, right? Like, Troy brought up that powerful scene of, Peter mustering the power to be able to come out of the rubble, right? And it was cool in Homecoming, and it fit in the context of that version of Spider-Man within the universe and the story they were telling. But in the comic books, like, he gets buried in that rubble and he's trying to deliver medicine to Aunt May because she'll die if he's unable to get that medicine to her, right? And when Tony Stark has taken that role in his motivation, that's where I'm like, like,
Mm-hmm.
I like it and I appreciate. I totally just, like, we have multiverses and people wave the flag for it all the time. So, like, I don't see how you could get upset with the MCU Spider-Man, because he is the Spider-Man of the MCU, and he's not supposed to be Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, and he's not supposed to be Brian Michael Bendis' Spider-Man. He's what's his face is. No, it's not Mark Webb. What's the director?
I can't
John
honestly.
Watts' Spider-Man.
John
Okay,
Watts,
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
This whole record, all I can think of is Mark Webb. I've not been able to conjure John Watts' name up until you just said it.
Yeah, so like that's what it is for me. But like, I've kind of talked about those things that are my favorite parts of the character. So those are the things that I think are missing sometimes. But I love the look of them. I love the vibe that Holland has as the character. Obviously, Peter Parker's girlfriend being this lanky brown girl is something that means a lot in my household too. So that's cool. And yeah, man, I'm curious to see where they go next. But I do think that Sony has to have a Spider-Man in their house. And even if they just share it and, we don't mention the MCU stuff when we're doing our movies, and they use them how they need to use them when they're doing theirs. So
yeah. Well, it seems like this partnership, Amy Pascal, in all of the big promo campaigns they've been doing for No Way Home, she's mentioned directly that they've extended their partnership. We're going to get 3 more movies with Holland inside of the MCU. So whether the Sonyverse and the MCU become one and the same, or they become multiverse jumping back and forth, who knows how they're going to do this. And, we've thrown predictions out about Holland being sucked right out of the MCU. And it seems like maybe Troy's been right all along, that maybe he's just going to kick around and we're going to see this character become still a pillar of the MCU, but also he's doing stuff on the other side of the street with Sony in the same house. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this lands. We're on the cusp of it as this episode releases. Troy, I want to end this episode with you.
Yeah, man.
Last thoughts on Spider-Man here. You can do a prediction. You can look into the future. You can just yell and scream about Far From Home or another movie, because I'm here for that too, man.
I've had a blast. I mean, shoot, this is 300 episodes, and we're talking about Spider-Man. This is amazing. No pun intended. But
Yes.
but for me, man, whatever happens with Spider-Man, I like the fact that we've gotten to where we've had. Like, I say I wanted Spider-Man in the MCU the whole time, and we've gotten those moments of him fighting side by side with Captain America, Avengers Assemble. We've had him there with Tony on Titan, take on Thanos. We had him fighting in New York. Like, we've had some really good times. So I'm just preparing myself. So just in case he gets taken out, I gotta appreciate where he's been in the MCU so far. But I feel like, honestly, more than ever, personally, the MCU needs Spider-Man more than ever now. With mainstay characters kind of fizzled out and the new characters they're pushing out, I really feel like they need to hold on to Spidey, and not like the MCU's in trouble.
They got Icarus. It's fine.
I don't want to say the MCU's in trouble by any means, because these guys can drop Doctor Strange tomorrow and it could be the best thing ever, and they're right back to where they were. So I don't think they're desperate, but I really feel, and this isn't like I'm trying to stick to Spider-Man, but I feel like with Spider-Man there, I'm just like that greedy fanboy that wants the X-Men right beside him next now. Like I want that whole Marvel Cinematic World all firing on all cylinders. But yeah, man, I feel like Pete's here to stay in the MCU, and I think we're getting all the worlds colliding. I feel, whether they know they're a separate universe or not, I think we're gonna have a world of Marvel. Like, everyone's in the MCU. I think obviously Sony and Marvel have to work out some sort of deal, but I feel like Venom's there. Well, I don't know what spoilers. I mean, it's out now, but he is in the MCU. I think Daredevil is there. I think we're all just gonna be able to have our toys and play with them in the MCU sandbox. But I agree with Carlos. I do want those more personal stories. I want Peter in college, paying his tuition, working a side job at the Bugle or Horizon Labs, and he has to get by, but he still, doesn't have enough money to make his web fluid, so he has to go out there without no web shooters. You know what I mean? Like, I want those kind of stories, and I think we can still get those. I don't think every story has to incorporate a Doctor Strange or a Tony. And I think Homecoming, for the most part, did do that. Despite Tony dropping in every now and then, I feel like we can get there. I think we will get there. So for me, I just want that college Spider-Man who's trying to get by, make his grades, impress Doc Connors, have enough money to take MJ out for a nice date without, ruining it by having to save somebody's life. I just want those simple Spider-Man stories that mean a lot for the everyday man, basically. Yeah.
I love it, dude. I love it. And, one of the questions I asked at the top of this is, why does Spider-Man resonate? And if I can take a cue from both of you guys in this, is that all of this discussion we had, whether it's the comic books, whether it's Raimi, Webb, or Watts, whether it is the cartoons, the toys, the video games, whatever, there's a Spider-Man for everyone. This character has existed since 1962, and this character will exist long after us, long after the Nerd Room. And this is the reason why. That this character is, as Carlos said, omnipresent. This character is always there. There's always a version of that, an interpretation of that someone is going to like. Yes, you might not like the MCU Spider-Man, but you have Amazing. You might not like Amazing, but you have Raimi. You might not like that, but you have the video games. There's always something there. And every version you see is just another interpretation, which is awesome. You have all these comic books. There's so much Spider-Man. And guys, I can't wait to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. Fingers crossed I get to see it this week. I gotta weasel my way in there somehow. But we are hopefully going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, the third entry into the MCU Spider-Man trilogy, next week, I should say, on episode 301. Gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, it has been an absolute pleasure podcasting with you guys, with Sanjay, with Ian over the last 300 episodes. And I hope that everyone out there listening is doing well, staying safe. And we appreciate you guys coming back every single week, whether you're new, old, whatever, to the podcast. We like to have fun. We like to celebrate this stuff. And it's okay to disagree also. I always like to put that out there. It's okay to like different stuff, guys. It's cool. This is what makes the world go around. So I guess we're gonna wrap it up there. We're gonna see the Twitter actions will be out there. We're gonna stay spoiler free as best we can up until next week's episode, where we do a deep dive into No Way Home, which is very, very exciting. Our final MCU film of the year, and then we get to review Hawkeye.
Yeah,
guys, don't forget about that. Hawkeye and the Book of Boba Fett, of course, is coming out here. We've got the holidays coming. One more week, guys, before we get into that festive season proper, where we're sitting down enjoying stuff with our families. And so hope everyone can take this time and enjoy Spider-Man, enjoy the MCU, enjoy Raimi or whatever. Web. Just go out there and digest some Spider-Man, whether it's the comics or anything like that, and have some fun with Spider-Man this week, just like we've had on this episode. So with all that being said, 300 episodes behind us, guys. I got to give the same wrap up that I've done 300 times ish. If you'd like to be a bigger part of this show and of any Spider-Man discussion, you can always email us at nerdroom@gmail.com. You can find everything we can do over the nerdroom.net. The hunt is real, and it's over on Instagram. I just threw up a video of my latest Lego build, the Imperial Probe Droid, so you can go check that out. We've got videos coming on YouTube almost weekly, and Twitter. We're going to be finding the first reactions from the crew here on Spider-Man No Way Home, spoiler-free reactions, and all the other discussion about Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and beyond. Be sure to go check out actually the episode we dropped, bonus episode this week. It's one episode back, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. We talk all things Jurassic with Tom Jurassic and Neems, two great guys in the Jurassic community, and we have a ton of fun just gushing about the legacy, the evolution, and the future of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World going into Dominion. So a lot of fun there. If you want to take a little break from Spider-Man this week, because I know it's been a lot of Spider-Man talk around the world, and rightfully so. But let's get there, guys. Let's get to No Way Home. Let's get to this final review for the year, and then we'll get into 2022 right away with Book of Boba Fett, Peacemaker, and all kinds of craziness from the DC world. So for 300 episodes and the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
And like Michael Keaton said to Tom Holland on the set of Homecoming, I'm Batman.
And thank you guys so much for entering the Nerd Room. This has been a Nerd Room podcast production. You can find our hosts Tim, Troy, Sanjay, and Carlos on Twitter at TheNerdRM, TroyTheBoy87, Sunjabi, and CDN Caped Crusade R. For more content from the Nerd Room, check out thenerdroom.net. And don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Room on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you plug in. Use the hashtag WeTheNerd to keep up with the latest from the Nerd Room on Instagram and Twitter.